Was a lot, my keys are lost, I'm reeking of beer. Well, I'm not fussed, no, I've had a good night. The cheap drinks, the good friends, the bright lights. I've been out here living my nightlife. The whole time you haven't crossed my mind. And my friends said you want the right type, and you made it pretty clear that right. Tomorrow's headspins be alright, 'cause I'm starting a new chapter. I've had enough, yeah, friends, enough. I've had enough, yeah, friends, enough. I've had you want it. I've had enough, yeah, friends, enough. I've had enough, yeah, friends, enough.
Top of the morning to you as we're here in the men's division. This semi-final about to kick off. GB taking on Russia. Should be a spicy one. We're here in field 2 and it is hot this morning, about 10 a.m. local time. Liam Grant alongside Ned Garvey. And speaking of time, Ned, do you know how many time zones are in Russia?
9?
9?
I believe is the
I think
number.
it used to be 9. It's now 11.
11, okay.
11. I was doing a little research in time zones. China has 1 time zone in comparative to Russia's 11. I think it's France. Benji Reese was telling me it has the most time zones. They got little islands scattered everywhere, so winning the time zone game. But just a few minutes until this men's division semi-final kicks off. Ned, you got to watch maybe the Russia-Austria quarterfinal yesterday. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was a very, very intense game. Both teams looking to play very deep, but I think it was the Russian offense was just patient enough to wait for their opportunities, and Austria just, had some miscues on offense and couldn't quite put the disc in when it mattered. Definitely one of the most intense games of the tournament so far.
Yeah, safe to say GB had a easier quarterfinal.
A bit.
Haven't really been tested really in this tournament so far. Do you think this is the moment they're going to be put to the wire?
I mean, I hope so. But it's still hard to see. I don't think anyone's put up more than 9 or 10 points on GB so far.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And I think they met in power pool stages early in the tournament. Is that correct, Ned?
Yeah, they met in the power pools and GB won 15-6. Though I think they may feel that it was not their best game. Their defensive line turned it over a lot.
But now it is the Russians on offense. Oh, big layup in from Mikhail on Rudimetkin, who now fires the deep lane, a stall count. Biff underneath it, under 3 English defenders around that.
Yeah, just couldn't quite come down with it.
And Freeman jacks it straight away. And that is not the smoothest start to this game. Actually, James Freeman did a nice rendition of No Scrubs TLC during the warm-up. Has a higher pitched voice than many would think. Russia picking up on their own sideline. And tell us about this Russian O-line, Ned.
So it's a collection of guys from a bunch of different clubs around Russia. I think only 2 of them actually play for the same club, but they started the process of the national team way back in 2018, and they've been working very hard to gel as a team, having training camps all year, traveling to Moscow and St. Petersburg together. And so far, they've had moments where they just look really fluid.
Biff, the Russian dancer in the end zone, gets a great goal.
There is a pick called earlier in the play.
I think it's going to need a spare timeout to finish this one.
We'll see. Hopefully it doesn't come to that again.
I'm wondering if that affected the play.
I think it's hard to say that it did, except maybe the English defender stopped and didn't play as hard as he could have.
Yeah, maybe Alcock at the back there might have tried to peel it off and help with defense. Now some more patient play there from the Russians. Disc is in. Sishin. Now he sends it deep again, this time to absolutely no one.
Just a bit of a miscommunication. Alexander Romyotkin cut to the break side, and I think Butikov thought he was going to go deep afterward.
So now we'll have Tom Abrams picking up the disc. At the far side, no, it's actually Freeman. Looking for Rolich, isolated in the front. Now to Alcock, the Devon captain. And Hayden Slaughter sends up a high ball. This one for Abrams, who, can't track it down. Wind just picking up this morning during the warm-ups, fairly calm. Now a light wind kind of blowing towards the camera.
Yeah, it's a bit stronger than it's been in the past couple days, and in a different direction even.
Yeah, it's almost like you get this swirly wind with the heat rising off this turf field here. And it seems like Russia are happy for any of the players really to pick up the disc.
I mean, I think you'll see one of 3 players pick up the disc.
And now a disc hanging in the air, 2 men battling for it in a great position from Freeman. He's showing himself why he's on the D-line, but the D-line offense needs to try and capitalize and get one of these early breaks. Kind of going upwind, GB. Again, the wind more coming towards us at the moment. So it's Tom Abrams picking up the disc. Been captain of the GBD line for quite some time. Played back in 2015 when they won gold. They'll be trying to do the same, but have to get past Russia first. Rolich, defensive player of the year last year in Europe, and Freeman. What an incredible throw. This one may be going out the back. Mikhail gets up, tries the greatest. He is one athletic man. Godobin, better known as Biff. Rounding out the unders against Hayden Slaughter. And again, Russia, 1 or 2 pass, then look for the deep, looking for Biff again. And this goal will count. The Russian dancer, here we see it. I told him I'd buy him a pint if he did it.
And he well deserves it. Interesting to see Igor Naumov hucking the disc. I talked to Josh Briggs before the game, and he told me GB's defensive strategy was to keep the Russian throwers away from the disc. And so far, they've done a pretty good job. But you can see that the Russian cutters can also come in and make the big throws if they need to.
So Russia, the only nation here with a team in every semi-final in every division. Or should I say in the semi-finals in every division. That's pretty impressive, Ned.
Yeah, they've been putting in a lot of work in the past few years. Really training, trying to get the national team set up better and better. You can see most of these teams are practicing all year round. And because most of the players come from Moscow and St. Petersburg, it's not too big a distance to travel.
That little dance routine makes me so happy. I have a lot of time for Godobin. We actually saw him at the bar last night. Some of the Russian players, I think, just chilling out more than anything.
Yeah, I think their team spirit is one of the things that definitely gets them pretty far. They're pretty relaxed outside of the game. You can see them at the bar pretty much every night.
James Mead, man playing with Clapham, but did some time with Chevron as well. Being forced backhand here by the Russians. Very active force. And it's Justin Ford. A man who needs no introductions. Losing some yards on that dump pass to Mead. And captain Josh Briggs. I think one of the captains of Clapham as well this year. Wilson. To Yo. Now, parked on this near sideline, has to swing. in the upwind direction. Forward, great continuation. Something GB are known for is their impeccable end zone offense. Back to forward now in the handler position, working with Mead. Always looking to try break the mark. Sends defenders flying, getting high in the stall count. He put 2 people on the ground there, some ankle busting fakes from James Mead. But that's something the Russians do very well. They're very active marks, and now GB a yard away from getting a score. And now they have it. Simple, clean end zone offense works out for the British. Justin Ford, first goal of the game.
Very disciplined offense from the British.
And yeah, it's something I saw a lot on beach, which was, again, Russians have done incredibly well on sand. I wasn't expecting them to do as well on grass, and that was maybe an oversight by me. But I often see them doing a straight-up force on sand, quite active marks. Is that something you see things different to the rest of Europe, perhaps?
I think in the north region, it's actually quite common. We play it in Latvia quite a lot as well. The idea is that you trust the downfield markers. Russia trusts just about every player on the team to match up with any team athletically. So they don't fear the straight-up force. They trust the marks not to let up the deep throws, and they want to make every single in-cut difficult.
Yeah, pretty much every time GB get the disc, they have to pivot and fake to get a throw off, pretty much anywhere in the field, and end up working out quite well. They were able to send the force flying, but I like that. Make the force work, you know. Make the thrower pivot a couple of times. No throw easy.
Yeah, they try to make it as difficult as possible for the guy with the disc. They really stress active marks. Having played there for a couple years, I can tell you we worked on it a lot in training.
So that's Ben Funk for GB. He's going to pull this disc. Played with Boost in the US. We made it to National Series playing before sailing across the Atlantic. Played his college ultimate in Stanford. And someone who's been on the O-line in the past for GB and Clapham sides, but bringing a bit of experience to this GB D-line. Getting a lot of the mark there, Naumov. And now again the deep shot. They waste no time, these Russians. That is a beautiful shot. Susyan.
I believe that was Kutov who threw the disc to Butkov in the end zone. I think you've seen it a few times in this game that Butkov has left the handler space and gone deep because the defender's trying to force him out. He's a guy that's just as comfortable cutting deep if he needs to, even though he probably has the best throws of anyone on that team.
Yeah, I think you're right, that defensive strategy from the British try and force the handlers deep, but they've obliged and taken those deep options. Maybe a time to change up the defense for Great Britain.
I mean, I think they trust their deep defenders. And you've seen a couple times that Russia's already turned the disc over. It's just been that the GB offense hasn't quite been able to convert, although that was very clean offense from the Russians.
So I think in Great Britain, if you asked anyone there who the best ultimate player was in the men's division, they'd say Justin Ford. If you were to go around Russia and ask that question, is there a unanimous answer as well, or?
Definitely not. I think there are a few guys that are in contention. Definitely Beef. I think in terms of cutters, there's no one better. But in terms of guys with the disc, I think you could make an argument for Butkov.
Ford puts one out into space. I don't think they're going to run this one down. And again, for me, throughout this tournament, the GBO line usually don't get broken, but they tend to turn over a little bit.
Yeah, but overall, they've done a great job of playing defense when they do turn the disc over. But you wonder if they do make it past the Russians, whether the German D-line will punish those mistakes.
Vladimir Kochkin Walking just to the front of the end zone. Thought about the hook. So often he thinks twice about it. But better D-line offense for the moment. Now Kochkin sends it this one out into space. Looks like a beautiful throw. Briggs in pursuit. Now the chance to get the first break of the game. And a timeout is called. Definitely a timeout called.
Definitely this time.
He's not going to pick it up and throw it again. At least not for a minute or two. Better known as the Austrian offense.
Yeah, that was.
Big shout out to our Ulti.tv crew doing a fantastic job here in Győr, Hungary. Up early every morning, out late every night.
Good to enjoy themselves at the tournament. Work hard during the day, play hard during the evening.
Yeah, to be honest, to get into this business, you need to be a little bit mad. So, in a good way, I mean that as a compliment because it's a lot of hard work and you need to be passionate about the sport, which everyone involved is, as our viewers at home. So, Russia with a chance to go 3-1 up.
Yeah, it would be a big moment to get the first break in this game. Maybe just give themselves a bit of belief that GB are mortal.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I would like to see them maybe try and take a shot there as the GB defense was scrambling to set. Now they'll be coming in the position they want. Let's see if Russia can come up with a plan.
Yeah, it's an interesting timeout call because I believe 4 or 5 seconds have already elapsed. So he's going to have to think quickly. Hopefully they have some kind of set play ready.
Yeah, is there any kind of classic end zone offense in Russian Ultimate?
Depends on the team, but generally that's not something that's worked on so hard. Most teams, as far as I know, don't have designated sets.
Wouldn't be surprised to see the 3 people nearest to this try and work it in. And they get the swing off. Bit of a help defense in the back of the stack for a GB. And now a nice inside break to open up the field. And a shot across the field. Is it going to be caught? No, just too far. Mikhail Lobanov maybe overshooting that one a tiny bit.
Yeah, just a little trigger happy there. It's a tough throw with the wind coming across the way it is.
You know, when it first came out of his hands, I thought it was on the money. There was definitely a window there, but it was a pretty tight, small window, and it sails out the end zone line. With Briggs carrying it up. And if GB are going to win this event, they need this man firing all cylinders. We see a nice offensive set there. 3 players streaking deep, and Justin Ford from the far side coming across with a flat cut. Mead now on the near sideline. Getting high in the stall count now. Gets the low release swing off. He has incredible execution on the simple throws in Ultimate, which can often make you a top player. Again, a nice inside break and a travel being called. And that travel was definitely called a while ago, an affected play. In this case, no reason to retract it anyway.
Probably not.
Definitely reading the YouTube commentary there, and at least one viewer watching was feeling that Mead was traveling in those ankle-breaking fakes. And I think it's retracted. So, good spirit from the Russians. So what was very nearly an early break for the Russians. GB tied up at 2s. I think that was a second goal for Justin Ford.
I think the Russians will definitely be encouraged that they were able to force the turn from the GBO and work the disc down all the way to the red zone. hopefully they'll get more chances.
So I presume Russian Nationals hasn't happened yet this year. So looking back at last year, tell me who won Russian Nationals, who was the big teams at the event?
Well, last year, my team, Salisbury's Wild Things, won. But looking back, you see a couple teams who are perennial contenders. Real 5 from Dzerzhinsk, which is a city close to Nizhny Novgorod. They have been the dominant team the past few years, winning, I think, maybe 3 of the last 5 years. You see Sokol from Moscow won 2 years ago. Teams like Upiter from St. Petersburg are also perennial contenders.
Biff to Naumov. Now just running out the unders again. Budkov. And sends it, a hopeful hook to Biff. Doesn't have the height matchup, and it is Alcock who gets a touch on it. And gets the second play and his second goal of the game. Thought Alcock had it there.
Great effort by Beef to come down with a late stall count throw. But I think you can see Great Britain poaching the lane there, expecting the upline cut and sending a man into poach to make sure the Russians couldn't get their reset off, forcing the deep throw.
So almost 20 minutes gone here. This men's semi-final, Russia up 3-2. We hear the Russian women in the stand. They'll be playing their semi-final on the same field after this game against the Irish. Should be a cracker. As we see this play again, I saw Cock up and I was like, yeah, it's going to be a turn, but good awareness from Biff. Almost pulled it out of his hands. And I think for Russia to win this game, those plays are going to have to go their way.
Yeah, I think they're going to need a little bit of luck on their side if they're going to make it happen. But we saw it against Italy as well. They just seemed to come down with almost everything that went up.
So this GBO line will be looking for a clean hold. Something they didn't do a whole lot against the French in their other streamed game. Perhaps just trying to throw some shade out there for the scouts. Talking to Briggsy, he said that was actually quite unusual for them. The rest of the tournament, they've been fairly on point. Looking at these James Mead gold-plated cleats.
Yeah, those are something.
Wilson, low pass. That's not going to work out. And again, this GB side, it's not the most convincing O-line at times. Conrad Wilson with a very low hook. And this Russian D-line offense is kind of panicky at times, but seems to work. They play with a certain amount of flair and okay with high stall counts. And
yeah, you see a couple different D-lines that the Russians will throw out there. This one in particular lacks quality on the disc. You see a lot of really athletic cutters, but some of them are just not as comfortable with the disc as you'd like them to be, which means that Kochkin needs to do the work in moving the disc down the field.
And again, the Russians pick up the stray disc. Kochkin against Justin Ford. Ivakin sends one deep. 2 men underneath. Oh, and the Russian man comes down with it. And there, Churikov with that big grab. Looking for the first break of the game again. Struggling outside the end zone. They shoot, and it's a goal, and who else? But Kochkin in a stall out is called. Definitely was high in the stall count and is uncontested again by the Russians. And it's correct, it does have to be tapped in. And that was a big moment of the game. Did seem like the Russian player did have it for quite a while. Briggsy to Wilson. Pops it to Briggs. Nice undershot to Long. So now Robbie Haynes looking for Ashley Yo, and again another uncontested foul from the Russians.
So you can see that the opportunities for D's are there. Great Britain O looking very vulnerable compared to what we've seen the rest of the week.
Yeah, something about it just doesn't convince me at the moment when I see the Germans, but it's hard to say when you look at this roster that they still aren't favorites to win the tournament. And you know, it doesn't matter if you turn over an offense as long as you don't get broken, which is something that's rarely happened at this tournament. Now Briggs around to Ford, inside channel is there, and that's an easy goal for AGB. And again, pushed against the rope, this GB side, but come out punching. Oh, there might be a call in the field.
I believe a foul was showed. Maybe a push off on the cut.
Having a little discussion here, and how many of these Russian players would have good English?
As far as I know, 3 or 4 speak English at a decent level. Yegor Naumov definitely speaks the best English of anyone on the field, and that's why he's the Spirit captain.
Yeah, it's about 7 or 8, I think, for this GB side.
It is questionable how well people speak English in Great Britain, so I can understand that.
Yeah, I'm allowed to say that. You're American, you're not allowed to say that.
Well, you know, we speak English how it was spoken hundreds of years ago.
And it is the goal. It has to be said, in this semi-final, very spirited so far, particularly from the Russians.
Yeah, I think they've been making a lot of effort to shift the perception that they don't have great spirit. I think we've seen a couple examples in this tournament where other teams think that the Russians are just guilty of maybe not being the most spirited team, and that's something that they're actively trying to combat.
As we see a replay of Yo there, getting down and dirty. Briggs, I believe, it's going to be his sister's birthday tomorrow. He'll be hoping I'll be able to do that shout out in the final. Gonna squeak it in now just in case I don't get that opportunity. So it looks like a timeout being called. Interestingly, for this game, we might have Mike Palmer trying to pick up some field audio during discussions. Always nice to have. Mike Palmer, the Australian, soaking up the heat here in Hungary. It's actually not too bad now. In terms of doing the commentary, it's nice to have a light breeze, which is cruising across the field. I've been impressed with Russia's performance so far, Gabby.
Yeah, I think the offense has been really clean, and the defense has put a lot of pressure on Great Britain's cutters, forcing them into a few mistakes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Great Britain defense changes here. I know they have a variety of looks that they can throw. They just haven't quite been able to disrupt Russia as much as they might have liked to.
As you see, Funk on the line. Alcock, Gordon, Rollage, Freeman, and Conor McHale. It's a big foot pull from Funk. Just lands inbounds inside the end zone. GB are down there fast as well. And they boost it straight out of the end zone. That almost works.
Just a little bit of a misread from Yegor Naumov. I think he'll be disappointed in himself to let that fall.
Garner with the disc. To Mikhail. Who I feel is one of the most improved players in GB at the moment. Ollie Gordon. I think he scored the winning goal back in 2015. Rollage. Mikhail to Freeman. Three powerhouses of this GB D-line. And now it's across to Funk, who's in acres of space. And that is the first break of the game. It goes to GB after several attempts from Russia, but the GB D-line just a bit more clinical at that point.
Yeah, able to stay patient. They didn't look deep, and they just waited for their cutters to do the work. I think that was a great D-line O from GB. If they can continue to play that way, it's going to be very hard for this Russian offense to score.
Yeah, I think it all started with that pull from Benjamin Funk, putting Russia back in their own end zone. I think they had the right idea of just throwing that deep shot straight off, and probably should have been reeled in. But it's Ben Funk after pulling, catching the goal as well, so starting and finishing that point exactly how he would have wanted to. And I think the GB offense has struggled downfield, but outside the end zone, their D-line and their O-line have been impeccable. That is something they've definitely figured out. I think at other parts of the field, they've struggled a little bit in how they structure their downfield cutting, but outside the end zone, they know exactly what they want to do.
Yeah, they look very fluid, very clinical. It's clear that everybody knows the system they're running, and it seems to be paying off for them.
Tom Abrams, sometimes known as Mum. If you know why, please tell me in the YouTube comments, because I actually don't. Nikolaev in the Axes handler position for Russia, and it looks like a flat force from the British side this time. Oh, and again, pretty much same part of the field, another Mac disc from Russia, and he almost looked at him like he was going to drop it before he went up for it.
Yeah, I wonder if his confidence is just down a little bit after the drop on the earlier point. Really uncharacteristic error from Naumov.
Abrams shimmying with his shoulders. And it really looked like he pivoted into the mark there for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's a tough foul to call if that's the case.
Oh, and it's a blade. Oh, and a bit of game of flubberguts in the end zone. That's a turnover.
Very interesting decision by GB to throw a blade with the wind coming across as it is.
I wonder was maybe that foul call retracted, or was the Russian player called foul, or it seemed like that's a high stall, can't throw.
Yeah, well, nothing was shown, so it's hard to know.
To me, it definitely looked like Abrams stepped into the mark.
I have to agree with you on that.
But I'd say either uncontested or maybe it was a Russian player called foul. Hard for us to know, but.
So interesting to see if Nikolaev tries that floaty forehand over again, if Naumov can reel it in. But the Russians opting to play short.
I think it's a foul being called. It was unintentionally stripped by Joel Miller. But surely all strips are unintentional.
Well, we hope so.
And it's spirited game so far for the Metkin. Low pass to Biff. Oh, and Russian player getting up high, showing their athleticism. Better now from this Russian offense, showing why they're a semis team. Getting high in the stall count now. Shoots a hopeful disc across the field. And that's going to work out. Oh no, it's dropped. Just the presence of Abrams alone. And again, that's 2 or 3 drops now for the Russians where they really need to be hanging on to that.
Yeah, if they want a chance to win this game, they need to hang on to those throws that get to their hands.
And definitely poaching the deep shot here is Biff. And a high disc. Oh, and it's caught by the Russians. So they think about sending it straight away. Nikolaev to Namov, who puts it out into space. Slaughter in pursuit, and both of them go up too early.
Yeah, a bit wasteful from Naumov there.
And a huge, big buttery biscuit is going to go over the top of everyone. Looks like no call.
Yeah, I think that would have been a tough call to make. Both of them were going up together. Maybe the Great Britain player just backing in a little bit. Beef had great position to read that disc.
Seb Allen. As we saw that disc cleaned up by Reading's Mark Bignell. He's been having a great week with his GB side, has to be said. Don't think there's any call in the field. They're just taking their time, sauntering the disc up to the front of the end zone. You see downfield, kind of GB setting up a bit of a junk defense, poaches in the lane, but they thread the needle beautifully for that first opening pass. Just now with Tomanov. Thinks about the deep shot. Oh, and again, just straight through the hands of the Russian players.
It's the 4th time in a couple points.
It's kind of been easy catches as well, have to be said, unfortunately for the Russians.
Yeah, I'd say that all 4 of them have been unforced errors. Maybe a little bit of defensive pressure on a couple, but really catches that they should be bringing in.
And it's a goal for Great Britain. That is another break. Mark Bignell having a stormer. And again, at times it's been the Russian D-line that's looked the best, but they're just clinical, this GB side. Given their opportunity, D-line now extending the lead.
Yeah, the Russians just need to take a minute to refocus themselves, because while GB's been playing tight defense, I don't think that it's been so tight to force the errors that the Russians are making.
Let's see replay a few of these turnovers. Any update, Ned, on what's happening in the other semi-final?
Not yet. Give me 1 minute.
No problem at all. I was talking to Olga. What I would say Poliskaya, but I think Kochanov is...
Kochanov is her maiden name. Podolskaya is her married name.
And I believe she plays with Elvis Presley, is that correct?
Yeah, she captains Elvis Presley.
And it's interesting, you often see the Russian women jumping between teams quite a lot for events over here in Western Europe.
Yeah, I think it happens with both the men and the women. The thing is, it's not super easy for a lot of them to travel in Europe. It's expensive, and since all of them have to get visas, there can be some difficulties for all of them. So for most international tournaments, it's very hard to predict which Russian side is going to show up.
I think you mean by literally show up there. As
I do literally mean show up there.
And another stray pass from the Russians. Slaughter with the disc now. Launching one. Again, I think the shot is, oh, incredible play. Conor McHale, I'd given up hope on that man. I won't do that again. What an incredible layout.
What a grab.
Sensational stuff from the young man.
Yeah, I think we might just see a couple Russian heads go down after that. GB starting to take control of the game.
Yeah, I was chatting to Steve Gilman before this game, who's got a PhD in astronomy. I asked him what his favorite star was. He didn't have one. I said mine was Conor McHale, who just had that unbelievable grab. So hard to get the layout because it's coming in hot. It's an angling disc. Sometimes at that height, when it's flat, you have more time to adjust and read it, but that is a huge, huge play for GB. I don't think that's exactly how Slaughter wanted to send it, but yeah, fantastic stuff. Yeah, so Steve Gilman, he said his favorite constellation was Cassiopeia, looking for the big W in this semi-final. Russia now 3 points down after a very good start to this game. I was thinking it could be a tight one, but that's not what the scoreboard says. So far, down 3 points. It's going to be hard to get those back against this stellar GB side. Plenty of gold medal winners here. Now, the deep shot to Biff. Oh, and he gets up, and good pressure from both the GB defenders. Allen and Joel Miller. Two of the younger players going to have a huge amount of experience, but international experience at this level, but rising to the occasion. Oh, and that a visionary pass to Brooks. Bignell shoots across the end zone, and the break train continues for this GB side. Russian heads looking a little down at the moment.
Yeah, I wonder if Russia might consider calling a timeout, or have they used both of their timeouts in this half? Yeah, I think they just need to take a minute to refocus themselves. They've made quite a few errors in the past few points, and I think we saw on the last point the deep throw was maybe not quite on, but just feeling like they need to do something to get themselves back in the game.
Yeah, they're not quite playing with the same confidence and intensity as they were in that semi-final yesterday. So Russia still do have a timeout in this first half. But it's GB with the chance to break, to take half, is something they'd definitely want them not to do, the Russian side. They need to bang in this 0 point and maybe try and get at least one break back before we reach that half.
Interesting to see that the Russians have taken off pretty much their entire O-line, acknowledging that they need something to change. So you see a lot of the more defensive players out there.
So it's up to their talisman, Kochkin, Stefan Rapazzo's favorite player.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say he's made a lot of friends at this tournament.
I'm trying to remember what club team he plays for.
Real 5.
Yeah, Real 5. Actually played him a couple of times. Some of us had a great time with him on the sideline. Definitely a very happy man off the field, full of joy.
Yeah, really nice guy off the field, but a very, very intense guy on it.
And he does what he loves to do, and that is jacket deep. Oh, and a big play from Alcock, who's done a fantastic job of peeling off at the right times to help out his GB teammates. And that is something Devon are very good at. A team I feel is underrated at times in the GB circuit. Always had some great battles with them, playing with Pelt. See no rest for the sexy from Josh Alcock, but they give the disc back to Russia. Kochkin with eyes for the end zone. That is a spicy throw again, and again cleaned up. I think GB recognizing that Kochkin wants to put it, and a lot of help defense, not able to isolate anyone in the end zone, the Russians.
Yeah, I think the Russians just need to calm down a little bit. That strategy might work sometimes for their D-line, but on offense, you really gotta focus, make sure every throw you make is a high percentage shot.
Now it's Funk. Rolich is on the ground, and it bounces out of Alcock's hands. So it'll be Kochkin again. Time he goes for the easy swing. And that one again goes to ground. Rollage. Now it's Declan Cartwright to Rollage. Man, I believe, has some Irish heritage. And now a shot to the end zone from Alcock, and Ben Funk in acres of space catches a beautiful goal to take half for Great Britain.
Yeah, Russia will be disappointed with the way they finished out that half after such a bright start on both sides of the disc. But that's what Great Britain do well.
And yeah, I still think GB have another few gears to go up through, but it's a sign of a great team when maybe you're not firing on all cylinders quite yet, that you can be leading in a halftime 8-3. And it maybe seems like I'm talking down Great Britain, but I just know how good this team is. And usually when we play against Clapham, they never turn over on offense. They can have a lot of offensive holes, and I haven't quite seen that. But I think something that's maybe different to the O-line of 4 years ago is they're probably better on defense at getting it back. So maybe in the end it works out the same.
Yeah, maybe they trust their O-line defense as well, so they play a little bit riskier, a high-risk, high-reward strategy, as opposed to Clapham, who generally plays very, very simple ultimate.
Yeah, shout out to any of the old boys, Jamie Cross, Stobbs, some of the older O-line handlers, I believe, now playing for the GB Masters team. And as per usual, the GB men's team bring out an old football for a bit of a kickabout. And as the players rest for halftime, we're going to take a little break here. Liam Grant alongside Ned, the Narwhal, Garvey. We'll be back in just a moment's time. Welcome back to this men's semi-final matchup. GB in a comfortable lead against this Russian outfit who had a great semi-final against Austria. Haven't quite found their form in this matchup. Liam Grant alongside Ned Garvey. As Russians coming out on defense will be Kochkin, who was on the last 0 point that got broken, but this time they'll be playing on defense going upwind.
Interesting to see that they've switched Proskoryakov onto the D line, so they're putting another thrower on the disc, confident in their ability to get a turn.
Yeah.
Hoping that the addition of another thrower might just give their D-line enough.
Briggs with the massive flick, and incredibly well read by GB. Thomas Cartwright, fantastic goal, and that is the weapon of a flick hook from Josh Briggs. So putting a stamp on this opening point in the second half. Briggsy, one of the best flick hooks in the game, if you ask me. Cartwright spinning on this rubber crumb. Field 2. The fire pit that is this 3G AstroTurf. And Ned, you're saying during the halftime you're going on a bit of a train ride, are you?
I am, right after this tournament, heading into the heart of Russia, all the way across.
What's it called, the Trans-Siberian Express? Is that what?
Trans-Siberian Railroad, yeah.
Not that express.
Not the express, no.
Yeah, sounds like quite a journey as Russia look to go on a journey themselves if they want to make their way back into this game. Score now 9-3 to Great Britain. I believe that's the same scoreline in the other semi-final, at least their last update. I'm going to hazard a guess to say that Germany are up 9-3 against the Swiss.
Looks like Germany is very much in control of that game.
Bodikov sends one a little too high. Beat Shepard out of bounds by Rolich.
Yeah, it just caught underneath the wind a little bit.
So James Freeman pops it to Ollie Gordon. 2012 Next Gen alum. And now a shot up to space. Slaughter. Great footwork and a great goal from that man. Another point for GB. What started off as, I think it was 3-2 Russia at one point.
Yeah, GB have just gone on quite a roll since then. The Russian heads have dropped a little bit and they're just not executing on simple things.
Yeah, they had a chance to go 4-1 up at one stage and now they're 10-3 down. He has 8 breaks in a row for the British side. And I guess this is probably a scoreline a lot of people were expecting. To be honest with you, I thought in the opening points of this game that Russia might be able to get stuck in, make it a battle.
Yeah, it did look just for a moment like it was going to be a very close game. But GB just able to impose themselves a little bit, maybe forcing some Russian errors.
Yeah, I can safely say that the next semi-final will be a lot tighter. The Russian women taking on the Irish women. As we see a beautiful steeple in the background there. Reminds me of Salisbury Cathedral in the UK. One of the great tourist sites in Great Britain.
What do we know about that cathedral?
I just know that we should go there, visit it.
Anything in particular we should bring along with us?
I have no idea. What you should bring is your A game, like the GB side have brought to these Russians. Taking their time walking up to the line. Again, they do so well getting that first pass off this Russian side. And the lane is Metkin wearing the brown 5-panel cap. And now the deep shot comes high in the stall count. Again, a lot of British players underneath it, and it's Russian who does gather it in. A foul is called. I think Seb Ellen suggesting that he was pushed, and again, uncontested by the Russians.
Accepts the foul, but also shows that maybe it wasn't quite a foul. I think they're just trying to show some good spirit here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it should result in a turnover with him putting the disc down. Either maybe the defensive player should get the disc, or I'm not sure if that's the resolution I would went for. And that is 29 Steve Gilman with a PhD in astronomy on the field. Don't know if astronomy helps you on AstroTurf. As Salty jumps a little early. And a turnover from GB. A little slack in that D-line offensive play. Perhaps resting on their 7-point lead at the moment.
Yeah, that just looked a little bit casual from him.
And here is Godobin. Well gathered in by Rudametkin. And now we hear big hammer goal, and that is fantastic shot upwind on the money.
Seen quite a few of those hammers from Nikolaev this week. He loves the hammer. It's actually been a major talking point among the team. They're trying to get him to throw fewer hammers, but it's hard to argue with throws like that.
As here we see Salty jumping up into the air. Doesn't quite get that one, but helped out by his teammate. He is actually a Boss water cooler salesman working for Eden Springs. He's quite the character, Josh Eels. I believe he'll be playing for the GB under 24 side in Heidelberg. And it seems to me that a lot of this GB coaching staff, or at least the captains, decided to take maybe a few younger players and try and integrate them into the system early. I think Eels is a man we'll likely see in a GB shirt in years to come. Youngest on the squad, I believe. Mead. That's the continuation cut from Ashley O. Good give-go offense from GB. Looking a lot cleaner now. This is more the style of offense I expected from the British. And a beautiful shuffle in the front corner, at least the front of the end zone. Ashley Yo left his man in the dust.
Yeah, some great inside shots from GB there. Hard cuts to the line and then just a little check step backwards. Obviously something they've worked on quite a bit in training.
That is a falling over lefty inside backhand from Justin Ford. He really has a good arsenal of throws. A lot of people don't realize it. Goes for the lefty backhand, lefty scuba. Brings it out quite often. Has a lot of confidence. And there Ashley O, a terror for defenses in the end zone. Talking to Benji Reese before the game, and we're talking about who we think the best player in GB is. A lot of people are saying Justin Ford, but I think Ashley O has to put his name in the hat. Unfortunately was injured for parts of last season, was unable to help Clapham try and get to the quarterfinals of World Ultimate Club Championships, losing a game to Bad Skid, which makes up a lot of the German O-line. So he'll be hoping that he can get some revenge. Again, different. That was in the club division. This is national teams, but I think that's going to be one hell of a showdown in the men's division final. Is it, if it goes to plan? Or
Yeah, well, identical scores in both games right now. The Germans are also leading 11-4. So it looks like we're going to see the final everybody predicted.
I do know one player in a Eurozone picks contest picked Latvia.
It was not me.
No, you're in fact a good journalist, Ned, so calling it like it is. And there's another quick goal for GB, kicking the Russians while they're down.
Yeah. I wonder if the Russians might just start thinking about saving themselves for the third place game.
Yeah, I think at this point you're just gonna, again, you're gonna go out there and fight hard, but maybe just use your whole roster, give everyone a run out.
Yeah, try to get some reps in before the medals game. They did promise me before the game that they would give everything, but at 12-4, you think that they just might have one eye somewhere else.
So now the Russian women trying to cheer up their Russian men. And looking at those other semifinals coming up for Russia, who do you favor to take home a silver or gold or make the final? The Russian mix or the Russian women?
The Russian women. In the picks contest, I did pick Russian mix to win, but they haven't quite looked at their best, while the Russian women have surprised even me with how good they've been.
Anyone else on that side besides Olga you think is a standout player?
I mean, you have to have Eliza Tizik in the conversation, the Eurostar. On defense, Inga Solimova has been a stalwart, making tons of big plays.
Yeah, unfortunately, the GB women not making the bracket after losing to France, which is a bit of a surprise. And a nice interception from Bignall. And it's Freeman. Back in the quarterback position now. Here is Eels. Looking for the break pass to Rolage, who drops it. You see the big Rolage after that drop, just kind of goes and sits deep. Definitely a good man to have mind the house, but now there's a deep option from Russia and they do not look it off. And this one looks to be absolutely perfect. Petrenko walks it up, looking for a reset or a pop pass, getting high in the stall count now. Throws one out in the space, and that's the man you want to throw to, Mikhail Kudobin. But I believe maybe his fourth goal of the game, third goal?
Something like that, yeah. He is generally a monster in the end zone.
I'm trying to think who else has scored for Russia. I think he might have 4 of the 5 goals, at least 3.
I believe he did reel in the hammer over here as well, so he might have every goal so far.
See, that was a on-the-money hawk from the Russians. They still have that one in their arsenal. Actually looked well when they had Rolage poaching deep, the GB side, but he kind of came back into the stack and Abrams maybe thought he was still helping out and got caught out.
Yeah, good cut from the handler space from Petrenko.
And we see this GB side. A lot of the lads sporting the kind of new style, short shorts.
Yeah, a bit more of the football style.
Yeah, a few lads still living in the past there, Wilson and Briggs. Not up to date with the fashion trends of Ultimate. I prefer the short shorts.
Yeah, personally, I'm a fan of the short shorts.
Just think for range of motion, it's the kind of shorts so it makes sense for our type of sport.
And you know, you want to show off your legs, right?
Well, I definitely don't, but I'm sure other people do.
Well, if you're an elite athlete.
An elite something, as we see Justin Ford looking to set up their end zone offense. That is a quick goal.
A great throw against the wind as well.
that was long. Showing his speed up the line as we see the ultileague.net fan in the background. Again, the GBO line haven't had a huge amount of points this week as we see that kind of little pirouette on the throw from Justin Ford. Not often you see someone lift their right leg like that when they're throwing that kind of pass.
But a beautiful throw nonetheless.
So will Latvia be allowed to compete in Russian Nationals again this year? They're going to boot you guys out after winning it.
So I think that we're not going this year. I'm not sure if it's because they don't want us or if we decided just not to make the trip.
Yeah.
Last year we went in preparation for the UCF, but since Salisbury's Wild Things aren't playing in the men's division, they probably won't go.
Thinks about the deep shot. As do Kutov. Nice lateral cuts now from Russia. You feel they could try and grind out these unders more as Godobin tries a deep shot of his own, and that is not executed well. You see, they've earned a lot of respect going deep from this GB side. You feel they should just maybe try and grind out the unders more.
Yeah, you would think they might try to be a little more patient with the disc. That's something they did extremely well yesterday, but something that just hasn't quite worked for them today.
Interesting to see if any of the Russians try out or sign up for ultileague.net. Let's take a moment to shout out some of our sponsors, Lucky Grass and also Tokai. Got myself a new pair of the Tokai fly cleats, and they are awesome. I had a great time running around for a little while yesterday evening. And maybe you can tell us a little about Lucky Grass, Ned.
It's a company started by some Russian Ultimate players who saw a gap in the market in Europe and just decided that they wanted to try to do something about it.
You see Ollie Gordon grazing his knees off this artificial turf. Garner. Working with Alex Brooks. Gordon puts up a high one and well taken down. Brilliant stuff by Declan Cartwright, and booms into EUC, the salty Devon sexy fish monster. And now it is game point for GB. Wonder who's going to finish first, and by that I mean finish their semi-final first, GB or Germany.
Let's take a quick look at the other game.
Had a great diving catch from Ollie Gordon. Not sure if his flick put here was quite as well executed, but that's something this GB side can do. If the throws are a slight bit off, they often can rely on the receivers to go up big. The Cartwright brothers having a fantastic tournament.
It's 13-5 on the other field, so maybe if Russia can score here, they can prolong the game just a bit.
Yeah, a lot of tournaments around the world, often I find semi-finals are the big matchup and the most exciting ones. But unfortunately, as expected in this division, not as spicy as some of us would have liked. I think that's why a lot of people are raving about the women's division as maybe the most exciting division at this tournament, because anyone could win. We saw the favorites Germany bow out in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, we've seen quite a lot of upsets in the women's division and a lot of close games. I think it's been the most unpredictable for sure. And some of the games yesterday especially were excellent. Great Britain being upset by France, Germany being upset by Italy, and Ireland finally getting their win against the Finnish women.
Oh, and it could be a Callahan to win the game, but Rolich comes flying in. I think a strip might be called. That is the blistering pace of William Rolich. As I said, I think he might have some Irish heritage. I've been trying to get him to sign up to the Irish team a couple of times. I think we may have missed the boat in that one. It looks like it's going to be a contested strip or foul. Definitely not initiating any body contact, so great play from Rolich, but perhaps the Russian player had it in his hands.
Yeah, sending the disc back is probably a fair resolution there.
So now it's Numov. Goes back to Kochkin. I have a feeling GB want to end this game here and now, but the Russians keep fighting, and that looks to be like a good flick hook. Just about gets there. That low, zippy release going upwind. Wind definitely coming from right to left now, so it's going to be hard for the Russians to get another score on the board here. They'll keep on fighting. Kostigin. Churdakov. See the man there wearing the backwards Tom Turney cap. And now a shot across the field and easily gathered up by Seb Allen.
Yeah, I think Naumov will look back on this game with a lot of disappointment.
And now a deep shot for Abrams, who's motoring away down the field. The experienced talisman, no mark in the field, and that is a goal and the game. Josh Alcock, emphatic performance from the British. Heartbreak for the Russians. After such a great quarterfinal, they just could not bring the heat to this matchup. Any final thoughts, Mr. Ned Garvey?
Humbling experience for the Russians. But that just shows how elite teams play. They'll punish every mistake, and they'll stay consistent with the disc, and that's something that the Russians failed on both accounts.
Yeah, I think they'll have an exciting bronze medal matchup coming later today. I think even making the semi-finals in this division is quite the achievement, particularly making semis in all divisions, the Russians, the only nation to do that. So on the rise, Russian Ultimate, and I hope our Russian fans stay tuned for it. The next matchup we'll have Ireland versus Russia in the women's division. Best of luck to GB in the gold medal match tomorrow. So come back for that one. It's going to be a cracker against the Germans. I'm Liam Grant.
I'm Ned Garvey.
And we will see you later.
Alti.tv